Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of our PS1 style horror game series. Today we're going to be working on our task manager and director that will allow us to manage tasks and events. Before we get started, I'll just bring to your attention the two folders that we're going to be working with today. I added here auto load, which is going to hold our director and task manager. Then I also included resources, and this is going to hold our events, which will hold other details about the events or about the tasks. So we'll first create our director node, which will be a 3D scene, and we'll name it to director. And then we're going to add a script, which we can save under here as director.gd. We can open, and we'll just have this as an empty object. And then we'll want to do Control-Shift-S to save, and we'll save under the auto load. And we'll also name it as director.tscn. And then we're going to add in our task manager. And this is just going to be a simple script. And now we have both of those auto loads. We can go ahead to our project settings, and we'll go under globals. And you'll want to locate this area here that says path. We'll click the folder here, and we're going to go under auto load. And what you'll want to make sure you do is select director.tscn, not the script, because with tscn we're going to add in our events via resources on our inspector here. So we'll open this and we'll add in our director. Then we'll do one more with our task manager, and then we'll add it in. So next up, we're going to add in our resources. So we're going to right click into our resources folder, create new resource, and we'll just select here a base resource. And we're going to save it as shift event, and we'll enter the save. So now when we open this folder and double click here, we have here under the inspector our shift event.res, and we can just add in here a new GD script, and we'll open it. So I'll just add in here that it extends to resource, and we'll name our class to shift event because we'll be using this later for our auto loads. And then next I'm going to add in an enumerator, and this is going to hold several types of events, and when we save the script, you'll be able to see why we added this in. Then we'll add in some of our details. This will include the type of event, which will be our restock shelves, our delay, which will be the amount of time that it takes before the next event rolls in, then the task amount count required, which is going to count how many of the tasks you're doing. And then we'll add in a description, because later on we're also going to be adding in a little area that's going to tell the player what is the current task. And so here you notice that when I added in an enumerator, I now have this drop down that allows me to select from the items that I put into this enumerator. So if I wanted a monster interaction, I could add this in, but for right now we're going to keep it with restock shelves. So I'm going to ahead and save this. So I'm going to go ahead and add in some code for our director here. So I'm going to add in these signals, and they're pretty self-evident as to what they are, but you'll notice that some of them have arguments here. These will be sent out as these are communicated to other nodes. And next I'm going to add in shift events, and this is what's going to actually hold the items, or aka the events. And if we save here, we'll be able to see that we can open up this little array and add in elements. And I will show you how to drop in these events and manage them later, but we'll be wanting to do this as an object so we can actually manipulate them. Next, I'm going to add in some variables, and these are pretty self-evident as to what they do, but most of these are for tracking the time and seeing which event is currently being used. In our case, it starts with the first one. So I'll go ahead and add in our first few functions. we're going to want to make sure that our task manager is connected with on task completed. And this will be to make sure that when a task is completed, that the director sends over another event, because our task manager is going to receive the first events that are being handled, and it will be able to manage the information on it and check whether it is still in progress or done. So, an important part of all of this when we're integrating it is that we're going to want to make sure we have print statements to know what's going on underneath the hood. And so we'll have here the type of autoload that's being activated and what's happening. Okay, next we're going to add in our process. And this is just going to handle the timing and checking whether we need to send the current event that's going on. And then next we're going to do send current event. And so we're checking to make sure that if we exceeded the size of our shift events, that we'll do this end shift function, which we'll add in later. Because for some of you out there who are working on your projects, you might want to have this be done on a daily basis where the player comes back to work on separate days and different things happen on those days. So this sort of modular system allows for a greater degree of freedom. All right, so next we're going to add in our other functions here. So when we do handle event, since we only have our shelves currently, we'll be running empty shelves requested. And this is going to be part of whenever the event is shelf related. And so we're going to send out a request to empty some of the shelves in our world scene, and it'll select a couple, it'll empty them, and then it's going to set that amount to the task count required. So then we also have here task completed. So basically, task completed is going to check if an event is completed as is said by the task manager. Then it's going to also check this little detail here, delay, and it's going to put the amount of seconds that is put in here to delay. And this is normally for pacing. So we don't want the player to immediately get a new task or to immediately get a new customer if it would not feel normal. So this gives, like I said, another degree of freedom. And so these comments here will be pretty useful for your project because it's going to allow you to kind of know what's going on. And lastly, I'm going to add in these last two functions right here, which is get number and end shift. So end number is going to allow us to randomize the amount of empty shelves, and end shift is, well, basically if we run out of any task to do, so if we exceed this limit, then it's just going to end the shift and assume that you want to move on to the next day. All right, so we can save this and we can head over to our task manager. So we'll go ahead and add in our signals. So task completed is going to notify director that the task manager needs the next task. Task updated is going to update the UI that we're going to implement and give our player feedback. And task started is going to initialize new tasks to both the task manager and also to our UI. So I'm going to add in this chunk here. And so current is just going to check how much of the progress that the player has done, and requirement is going to check what is the requirement or the amount that the player needs to do before moving on to the next task. And of course here we're getting details of the task. Once it has those details, it's going to start the task. Then next we'll do update task, and this is going to just update every single time that the player is making progress with the task. And that is all for this script here. So next, let's head over to Progress UI, and we're going to add in a panel. And so we're going to start adding in our little task UI that's going to tell the player what's the current mission and what he needs to do. So we'll just click over here and we'll anchor to the right, and we can bring it a little more to the left, just kind of give it some more space. And so next we'll just rename this to task panel, and I'll just do Control A. I'll add in a VBox container and then do Control A again, and we're going to add in a rich text label. I'll name this one objective header, and this is just going to be the text that says objective or current task. And you'll notice that our text is not filling in, and we can just go down under control to layout, and we'll increase the minimum for the Y axis, and we'll just bring it out here. We'll also want to make sure that we bring out our VBox container. So we'll also be able to just duplicate this, but we're going to rename this to objective body. And this is going to be the description. So I'll just have a placeholder that says description. And then I'll duplicate one more time. And this is going to be objective counter. And this is just going to be the counter for whatever task is being currently done. So what I'll actually do is go under objective body, and I'll go under layout, and I'll make sure that we have a larger custom minimum here, just in case we have a lot of text. We don't want it to overflow or to have to scroll through. So we can also just really quickly expand this, make it a little bit bigger, and we'll expand this, and we can save. So what we'll want to do is add in a script for task panel. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And we'll open here because I'm going to save under a scripts folder. And I'll just create a separate folder called UI. And I'm going to rename this to taskpanel.gd. And I'll create. So what we'll want to do is I'll just remove all this, and I'll add in here these two onReady variables. So we're just grabbing the two rich text labels that we're going to want to edit the text for. And next we'll want to connect up all of our signals here with Task Manager and Director, since this UI is going to be what helps give feedback to our player that he's doing the right task and he's completing it. And next we're going to do event triggered, and this is just going to fill in some details. Then we're going to do on task delay start, and this is basically if there is a delay going on, like say 15 seconds, then it's going to empty out these texts here for the objective encounter, because we do not want to confuse the player if there's nothing going on, but it still has the objective header with details. And lastly, I'll just add in these two parts here, which is task started and task updated, which is similar to our task manager here. And it's going to basically just update the counter whenever the player is either starting it or he's updating it. So next up, we're going to really quickly add in our shelf to a group called shelf. And this will be so when we add in some code for our game world, it's going to be able to find these nodes named shelf that are in the group shelf. All right, so now we can head over to our world scene, and I'm just going to add in a new script, and I'm going to save it under the scripts folder here, and I'll just name it world. I'll open, and yep, I'll just create a new script. So before I actually do anything with the code, I want to make sure that, well, as you can see, we have all of our shelves just free, and they're not really able to be found that easily apart from searching through the world. But it'd be better if we did node 3D and we put these all in here, into basically a container, and we're going to rename it to shelf container. So now we can save that and we can go back to our code. So I'll just really quickly add in our onReady variable, and it'll have a path to our shelf container, and we're going to tie in our task manager to a function that we're going to add in, which will be on all tasks complete. So we'll add in this last part here, and on all tasks complete, this is kind of like what I was previously mentioning. If you completed all your tasks in this sort of world and you wanted to move on to another day, you could run a function here, or you could run some checks here, and you can help that this will help be able to progress in a more controlled way. And then we'll do get shelf children, and this is going to go through this shelf container and just check through all these shelves. And actually we don't need to add in our shelf into the shelf group, since that would be pretty redundant and we're not even checking. All we have to do is check on our shelf container to get the shelves that we need. So now we have most of this project set up. What we'll actually need to do is go under our director and start adding in our events. So I will go ahead and create first under array, we're going to add in a new element, and we'll select our first one. And you need to click this pencil icon here and select object. And you can just drag over here our shift event. And when you see this chain thing here, you can just click it to make it unique. And I'll also want to make sure that I save this script as a separate script shift event, and this will just help make sure that this is a defined script, because otherwise it could cause some issues or it may not load in. So we'll save and we'll go back into our director in the inspector and we'll expand here. So let's say we want to restock our shelves, since this is the only event we can really do right now. And let's have it be 2 shelves that need to be restocked. And we'll do a delay of 15 seconds after it's completed. And the description can be, you need to restock 2 shelves. And normally you could just say restocked all empty shelves. So what I can do here also is I can copy this by going from here, and I'll scroll all the way down, and we can go over here and click copy. And so we can click into this and create a new object. I'll click this drop down arrow, scroll all the way down, and I'll do, if it'll let me, paste as unique. And now we have another event that is for restocking shelves, and we'll add in a delay of 30 seconds, and we can require 4 tasks to be completed, and we can change this to, you have a lot of shelves to restock. And so we can save this, and we'll add in one more just to kind of get the idea. And I'll do object, and then I'll do paste one more time, paste as unique, and we'll do 5 seconds, and it'll just be 1, and I'll do you are almost done, and save. So one thing you'll want to make sure is anytime you're adding in a resource or creating a new resource, you want to make sure that it is unique, because if you don't make it unique, then you'll be able to edit it from no matter where you are, and that's going to erase any kind of details or progress that you put into those resources. So before we test this game, one thing I came across was I forgot to add in a slight update to our shelf script. So you just want to come down to where it has the finish restock function, and we'll just add in here task manager dot update task. And this will be pretty crucial because this will allow us to tell the task manager that we are updating the task being completed, and we're actually restocking shelves. So we can go ahead and test this by running in this scene, since this is the one I edited. So I'll click here, and as you can see, now we have our objective screen on the top right saying you need to restock 2 shelves, and we have 0 out of 2 shelves completed. But what you'll also notice here is at the bottom we have director, shift started, and then the director is sending in our first event to our task manager, and then our task manager is going to receive that new task, and it's going to tell you you need to do 2 shelves for restocking. So I'll just grab here this box, and I'll go over to this shelf here, and I'll just start restocking by holding F. And as you can see, it updated for our little objective UI, but it also shows here progress 1 out of 2. So we can even go over here and we'll just grab another box. And as you can see, now we have a new delay of 30 seconds. So this will just kind of allow for pacing for the player. So the player's gonna have to wait around, and he'll probably do some miscellaneous stuff. And now we got our new objective, which is to restock a lot of shelves, but problem is we don't have enough boxes for this. And so even if we start restocking, as you can see, we have some other shelves that we can do. We're going to notice that we don't meet the entire requirement. And so later in this series, we'll be able to grab boxes from the storage area here, but we will most likely be adding in NPCs and NPC events for our next episode. So thank you all for watching. I hope this video was helpful and informational. And if it was, please be sure to like and subscribe and comment. It helps out the channel, and it helps me know that you guys want to see more videos of this series. So I'll see you guys in the next video.